Okay, so again, pick up 2 beads, skip the first 2 beads, and go through the next 2 beads. Now pull your thread, and if you've done everything right, you will get a small little, somebody said it looks like a little headless man, and it kind of does, legs and a body. Okay, so we're going to repeat that. And again, I'm using the pinky, the string around my pinky, as kind of like an anchor to hold my work. If it's not in the right position, you can just move the beads along to tighten up or to loosen. We're going to pick up the next 2 beads. We're going to skip the next 2 beads and go through the next 2 beads and pull my thread. Very careful not to get it all tangled up around the existing beads. Now we have 2 ups and 2 downs. Same thing. Pick up the next 2 beads. Trust your pattern. Don't think that you're doing something wrong because it doesn't look perfect yet. Skip the first 2 beads, go through the next 2 beads. Be careful not to catch that working part. Okay, let's continue to do this. Pick up 2 beads, skip 2 beads, go through 2 beads. Now some people do, myself included, find that it's actually easier to do it on my hand. So I'm holding my working thread there, and I'm picking up 2 if I can. See, they even jump up from me sometimes. So I'm picking up 2, I'm skipping 1, 2, and I'm going through 2 all the way to the end. If you have counted right, and if you have done it right, at the end you should go through the last 2 beads, and they will be the downs. Skipping 2, going through 2. Oh, see, I caught my tail. That's what I was warning you about. And I also, if you will look, caught 3 instead of 2. Sometimes when you're working with the same color, it's very difficult to see the beads. So I'm skipping 2 and going through 2. All right, all the way to the end. Skipping 1, 2, going through 2. Don't get frustrated yet, because this is the only row we have to do this way. Everything else is much easier. All right, so skipping 2, going through 2. Add on 2, skipping 2, and let's see if I did it right. Going through 2, and my last 2 are the ones I'm going through, so I did it perfect. Okay, I'm going to take it off my pinky so you can see. It should look, if they're all scrunched up tight, like this. This is your first, second, and third row. Because your first and second row, you did the long row. The third row, you actually came back and put the ups, or the mountains. Okay, and I use very common terminology so that it's easy to understand how to do this stitch and all of my stitches. So if you look, you have a down and up, a down and up, all the way across. Okay, and as we do the next stitches, you will find that that is the pattern. There will always be an up on one end and a down on the other. If you have not finished with that on each row, then you've done something wrong, or you're doing odd count. If it is even count peyote, there will always be an up and a down. Okay, so let's set this aside for a moment, and let's pull our next 5 rows. So we go back to our chart. We mark off that we've done those first couple rows. the next 5 rows. Let's go ahead and pull these out. I'm going to go a little faster. You can pause it if you need to. 18 for the first row. For the next row, 6 threes. 2 ones. 10 threes. The next row, 4 threes. And if you do see, I drag some of my beads across. That's just kind of habit. 1, 3 threes, 1 1, 3 threes. Oop. One of my beads got out of line there. You gotta make sure they're straight, because if the order's not right, your pattern won't be right. 2 ones, 1 3, 3 ones, 6 threes, 3 ones, 1 3, 1 1, 1 3, 2 ones, 4 threes, 2 threes, 3 ones, 3 threes, 1, 6 threes, and 3 ones. Now, generally, when I am done with each set of 5, I will put an OK or a star or something on my pattern so that I know where my last set of rows were. Again, once you get into the chart, if you make a mistake, it's easier to find your place. Just always remember that the first row, the finished row that you did, is actually the top row, and you're working backwards. The reason you do that is because as you pick up, you will not drag your string across your pattern. If you did it in reverse and put your very top row at the top, then every time you drag your string and needle across, you're going to be spilling and creating a problem with your pulled lines. Okay? Okay, so you have all your rows pulled. The next thing to do, especially on the first set of rows, once you get beading, it's not as important because they'll fall in line, but on the first 3 rows, sometimes your work will twist. We need to make sure that your work looks just like mine. If you notice, there's some of the black and then some of the other color here, kind of in a swirl, and then more black. It has to look like that. If it does not, if you'll twist the work around to make it look like that, and then just pull the strings tight again. That way we know we're starting off in the right order. Okay, so I'm going to take and I'm going to wrap my pinky, again the non-dominant hand, with a few wraps. You don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be your pinky, but what it does is, if you look at the way I'm holding the thread, it actually gives me an anchor to hold on to my work. Now, you're going to start filling the downs with the ups, or downs making them up. So you pick up 2 beads and you fill in the down and go through the up. And what happens is, if you watch, that now becomes an up, but that's for the next row. So you're going to pick up 2 beads. You're going to fill in the down and go through the up. Pick up 2 beads, fill in the down, and go through the up. Make sure you're catching both of the up beads. Again, 2 drop means there's always 2 beads per stitch. Fill in the down and go through the up. Now, if you do this all the way across, this row is pretty easy because it's just a solid black row. And what will happen, see how that bounced? That's why you have to have the rows separated a little bit. So you're filling in the down, going through the up, all the way to the end. When you get to the end, you should once again have, as we turn our work over, an up on one end and a down on the other. If you do not, something has gone wrong. You will always have an up on one end and down on the other. Now, if you noticed, when I was done, I turned my work over. I'm always starting with my working thread coming out to my right hand, and I'm going across. If you continue to move your work, that's why you don't have to worry about the rights and the left on the pattern. So we're going to do it all over again, and this is the same thing you do for the entire pattern. You pick up 2 beads in order from left to right, just like you read. Fill in the down and go through the up. Pick up 2 beads, fill in the down, and go through the up. Again, trust the pattern. It may not look like it's going to come out right, but it will, as long as your count is right and you followed your pattern. So you're going to go all the way across, filling in the down and going through the up. And sometimes they bounce. If you notice too, I actually am getting the beads with the side, with my needle to the side, not straight down, because if you go straight down, you'll catch that core and it'll be hard to get the needle back up. All right, now this is something to be careful for. See, I caught the working part of my beads there. Okay, just make sure it doesn't wrap around. So pick up 2, go through the down, and there's no up this time. Watch. Now I have an up and a down. And if you notice, I turned my work. Now, one way to keep your rows tight is as you do them and you finish the row with your fingernail, just kind of pull back that first set of beads. See, it's just a little loose now, and pull it tight. If you do that each row or every 2 or 3 rows, your work will stay much more secure. All right, let's do another row. So we're going to pick up 2 beads, fill in the down, go through the up. Pick up 2 beads, fill in the down, go through the up. 2 beads. I know it doesn't look like much yet, but it is. It's actually a word starting to develop. Pick up 2 beads, fill in the down, go through the up. Pick up 2 beads, fill in the down, go through the up, all the way across. If you have a bead left over, you have done something wrong. If you do not have enough beads at the end to do 2 beads in that last stitch, you have done something wrong. I turn my work over, I pull gently back on that last one and pull it tight, and it locks that row in. And I'm going to continue doing these rows until this set is done. And once this set of rows is done, I will pull another set of 5. Okay, continue to pick up 2. Fill in the down, go through the up, fill in the down, go through the up, turn my work over, pull those last beads, tighten it down. At this point, you don't really need what's called the dead tail, which is around your pinky, but I haven't showed you what to do with it yet. So it's just going to be hanging. That's the next step. I will tell you that no matter what you're doing on peyote, the correct way to do peyote is to never have a knot. There are no knots in most bead weaving. A few bead weaving there are, but for the most part, there are no knots. So in the next step, I'm going to show you how to start and stop a thread. And if you notice the beads sometimes jump, don't worry about it. My vacuum cleaner is very good about picking them up off the floor or when I sweep. I've sometimes shot them all the way across the room, and my husband and kids can attest to that. Okay, so you've got your rows. I'm going to set this aside and pull out a piece that I've already been working on so that I can show you how to stop and start your threads. Again, no knots. And everybody's design may have different colors. I'm using different combinations in different colors so that everyone's pieces are unique. I'm trying not to send anyone two of the exact same sets of colors. So when you're at the end of the row and you can't use a knot, how do you end your thread? Now, what we do is we follow the path of the thread. So you can't go back in this one because this will take out the stitch that you're working on. So you go back in the one below it, and as you can see, there's already thread going across there, so you're following the path. And to move your thread, remember there's ups and downs. So you'll have one, if you can see here, that's a little higher, and then a little lower, a little higher, a little lower, and the same on the next row. So you just move your thread in from the edge a little bit, always catching 2 beads at a time.